Oh, my God. Tony Gump, can you believe John Birch said Kamala's going to win this debate?
I still can't believe he said it.
What the hell? I did not.
Yes, you did.
Trump is.
Tonight's the big debate, the grand debate. What did I call it? The ultimate debate.
Yeah.
It's going to be big. It's
the master of all debates.
The master debater.
Yes.
Master debater. Glad everybody's here and one big happy family. What is that face? Look at this face he makes when he looks at his camera. What is that? What is that?
Sexy look, man. Let's watch. Okay, you ready? It's my sexy look. My very. You did a little throw a wink in there.
Blue steel.
Wow. You want to tell the audience how you had your shirt inside out when you got here?
Why do you keep lying about
No, I'm not lying
gosh.
about that one. That one's the truth. It was.
Guys, you're both lying? What the heck? Okay, so it was. I was in a hurry. I didn't want to wear the shirt I was wearing.
That Nike check was backwards and on the other side.
That's what you need to talk to P. Diddy because that's what the kids are doing.
That is not what the kids are doing. The kids will leave tags, but this was not. This was not like a price tag. This was the inside. Hey, I'm wearing an extra large tag.
Cutting edge. The kids are doing it in Los Angeles. They're doing it in L.A. and New York and Chicago. That means they're liberal. So
yeah,
never mind.
You're doing what the liberal kids are doing.
No way.
Anyway, thank y'all for already hanging out with us, man. Y'all are jumping in here fast. We are going to be streaming the debate tonight with live over-the-line commentary, which is going to be exciting. And John Bird actually brought a offering for the show.
Yes, I brought an offering.
He brought an offering, and it is a new parody song that most of you guys will hear tomorrow on the radio, but you wanted to premiere it right here on this show.
Yes, it's a video I'm very proud of. I did use, I will tell you, I did use some AI. All right, I used some, but not a lot.
With it being a parody, it's not going to ding us, is it?
No.
I know we always talk about that.
No, you're always covered under the parody law. I mean, there's a million parodies on all the platforms. So no, you're covered under the parody law.
So this is a parody of what song?
Brick in the Wall.
Brick in the Wall, and it's called
Soy Boy Tim Walls.
Okay. All right. Tony Gump, I guess whenever you're ready, let's try this out.
All right.
See what happens.
We don't need no white guy tacos.
With no spices.
And we don't need no part-time coach.
It's a gritty, baby.
Wonder if we're gonna get dinged on the music.
Tampons in the boys' bathroom. Timmy, leave them nags alone.
Watch out, horse! Watch out! Turn around!
Hey, Timmy, leave them nags alone.
Leave them what?
Nags.
Nags.
Horse nags.
The horse?
Yeah.
No Kamala and no soy boy Tim Walls.
Well, those are creepy.
Yeah, I did a number on them.
No Kamala and no
Oh my God.
boy Tim Walls.
God. Oh, that's flattering, actually.
We don't need no white guy tacos.
Actually, some tacos sound pretty good right now.
I know, I love tacos so
We
much.
don't need no
Oh my God, they're marching on the kids.
Ask the liberals.
This is
for you.
going downhill fast.
no tampons in the boys' bathroom.
Yeah. That left one needs a tampon.
Timmy, leave them nags alone.
I think YouTube kicked us.
What?
Hey, Timmy, leave them nags alone.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, they kicked us.
Nuh-uh. For real?
Unacceptable.
Yeah.
Did they boot us for real?
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think they booted us.
Did we get booted, YouTube?
Pretty sure we did.
I don't see us on there.
No.
Should we just start from scratch?
Don't do anymore.
You tell me.
Bert's like,
This is bullshit.
I had a feeling about that.
It's bullshit. I did the music.
Well, he's right about parody laws, but you know, I guess there's certain songs where it's like, you know, certain songs that have like extra copyright on them, you know, because the artists are like jerks about it.
They can't. Even Prince can have parody. I've done parodies about Prince for decades.
All right, so
People are saying we're live, but it kicked me off.
Everybody's saying we're here.
Okay, well, I don't know.
Now go halfway through that song, start over.
No, I'm kind of.
we gotta give John Bird his due. Just go three-quarters of the way through the song.
Don't bother.
Well, it's not show. This is what's weird is it's not showing live on my channel, but everybody else is saying we're live. So I'm just going to take everybody's word on it.
Okay. That's it's so weird. It's kicked me out of YouTube for some reason.
Maybe it knows what you're trying to do. Oh yeah, it says we're live.
Okay. Well, my bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Weird. All right. You want me to try it again?
I say go for it.
Hey, Timmy, leave them nights alone.
I'm just gonna hit the mute button for a second.
We know you were never in the combat zone. No Kamala and no soy boy eating wolf.
Oof.
Oh,
And he blows it up.
I wonder what it was doing.
All right, John Bird. Good
That was
job.
good.
Even though we had a little bit of a scare there,
It
you
looks
did
like
a good
I'm
job.
knocked off too.
We're live.
Okay.
I promise
I
we're
should
live.
be able to see it.
Well, I know for a fact it kicked me off of the YouTube.
Well, that's what, when I went and checked my app, it wasn't showing either. So it must just be some sort of glitch where it's not letting us look at it live. I don't know.
Okay,
Who
but
knows
now
what
it's
it is.
showing it, so I think we're okay.
Yeah, it's showing it on my end too.
Yeah, that's weird.
And John Bird's listening to us. John Bird's so mad at YouTube right now.
Who's in charge of YouTube?
Look at his face.
Actually, Google is the parent company, so.
Listen, it is incredibly frustrating because we've been through the ringer so many times with social media companies and being booted and everything else, and then when you take a swipe at John Bird's parodies, he gets incredibly angry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had him played on Joe Piscopo's show, and his platform, he did a live in New York, and they didn't do anything. So what the heck's going on?
I don't think we've never been dinged for parodies.
No.
It's been like other videos that have extra music in the background. That's normally what we get dinged for.
I think YouTube has some, like, it recognized the beat to the song, and since we were live, maybe it shut it down real quick.
No, I don't. Everybody else says we kept going. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't even care.
Yeah.
But hey, since we're on the topic of Tim Walz, let's go to this video of Kamala Harris. Well, it's actually a video about Willie Brown that the New York Post released today, and it's an old news piece, and I think maybe from CNN or some sort of news agency talking about Willie Brown running for mayor and his run and everything. And just look who makes a cameo appearance in this video. This is so good.
Thank you. Good luck, brother. All right. You got my vote. All right. See you later. One love.
8 out of the 10 voters I meet are absolutely persuaded that I know what I'm doing, that I'm pretty smart, that I can get the job done, and that I may be a rogue, but I'm their kind of rogue.
He's a rogue, all right, notorious for his flamboyant lifestyle. Flashy clothes, fancy parties, fine women, and fast cars.
It said, that lady goes, "Excuse me, are you his daughter?" And Kamala's like, "No, I'm not.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm actually doinking this guy, so I'm not his daughter." I thought that was great. It's so good. And then today on Capitol Hill, they had a hearing with some of the not migrants, but families whose loved ones have been killed by illegal aliens. And we shared some of it.
That's just unbelievable.
And the Democrats acted absolutely out of pocket. And they were like, "You're just being used. You're a tool." And they had to snap back at them. But maybe the biggest meltdown came from Eric Swalwell, where he got on a giant poster board a copy of a tweet that was sent out by the House Judiciary Chairman that shows Trump hugging a duck and a cat, because as everybody knows by now, Haitian immigrants are running around towns and snatching ducks and geese out of the water and eating them and eating people's pet cats and everything else. It's not a hoax, by the way. It's real. Yeah. It's real. And so they post this meme on Twitter, and Eric Swalwell just absolutely loses it. I mean, I am pretty sure he pees his pants during this clip.
What in the hell is this?
What is this?
Tweets protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio because he goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating pets. My God.
My God.
He's a bad actor.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Because last year, for a very long time, you tweeted and promoted Kanye West as he was calling for genocide against the Jews, and you kept it up. And now, when we have victims coming here, you're tweeting this nonsense.
Oh, my God.
I don't know why you would do this. I hope you're okay.
No,
I don't know if the aliens who are eating your ducks are in the room with us right now.
No, they're not, but their victims are.
Cringe.
This is a serious issue. These people have loved ones who have been lost.
Oh, yeah, now he's saying
you tweeted this.
You suck.
I'm going to lose.
Hear that, YouTube? They suck. Not YouTube.
Swalwell. Eric Swalwell had his panties in such a wad. And I love, because a lot of liberals are doing this right now. They're talking about this Haitian migrant eating animals being debunked, that it's not true. But the people that live in these towns are saying they're watching it happen. There are people reporting. The police are saying it's happening. Which we've talked about over the past couple of days, Springfield, Ohio.
Yes.
The police are like, they're killing people's cats. They're out here eating. Even in New York City, you go on the streets of New York City, and the Venezuelans are cooking rats. Like, they've got big grills with the turn thing. What is that called? Rotisserie deal. Cooking rats on a rotisserie. Like, this is real. These people come from whole countries.
Yeah, I even read something where it's like their culture in Haiti, a cat is a delicacy as a food.
Yeah. It's like turkey for Thanksgiving.
Crazy.
It's oh my God. Here's a lady. This lady we played on the show as well, and she is a native of Springfield, Ohio, and she's recounting what she is seeing in her streets while she's out.
I was out and about yesterday, driving around Springfield. I was looking at the giant holes in some of our buildings. I noticed all of the old familiar spots bearing new signs in an unfamiliar language. I watched as groups of strangers walked around the city like lost tourists, and it was like a punch in the gut. A terrible sadness came over me, and I began to cry. I immediately started to think back to when I was little, walking from my grandma's house on South Fountain through downtown and all the way to Snyder Park, going to Wren's to get new school clothes and shoes, the excitement of the mall for lunch at the Blue Fox, or even better, to see Santa, riding down High Street, admiring the beauty of those stately homes and their amazing architecture, dropping pennies in the fountain and making wishes. And now, all those warm memories are becoming fuel to the fire of anger inside of me. I feel like we have been invaded by some sort of pest. I'm angry that my friends and family are packing up and moving away. I'm angry that foreigners are using up the resources that were set up for the Americans that reside here. I'm angry that another country's flag was being flown in our city. I'm angry when I see our businesses and recreational areas littered with garbage left by people that do not know or understand our laws and culture and are making no attempt to learn about them. And let me be clear, this is not about race. This is about people being given the privilege of coming here from another country and having no respect for our people, our land, or our life's work. People living their life here the way they did in Haiti, angry, stealing, polluting, living in filth, and acting like animals. These are not civilized people. Opening containers in our grocery stores, helping themselves to what's inside and throwing the rest onto the shelves and floors. Pulling off of the highway to publicly clean and gut the roadkill lying there in front of anyone that passes by, stealing animals from farmers and leaving their severed heads at the side of an old school where children play, relieving themselves in public, making some barbaric stew out of the birds that live in our park. This is insanity, and it has to stop. What will become of Springfield? Where will we be in 5 years? The thought terrifies me. Will it be some sort of dystopian wasteland with most of our original residents having moved away and those that cannot afford to move being locked inside their homes, living in fear? This thought is keeping me awake at night. I just want the old Springfield back. I know it was far from perfect, but at least it was still ours.
Man, this is a lady that's watching it happen.
You know, I just thought about this. What about the Simpsons?
Yeah, Springfield.
What the crap?
That was the Springfield they were in too, I believe.
Yes,
weren't they?
I wonder if there's a show from years past
Probably.
that addresses this.
Where a bunch of Haitians moved to Springfield and they're eating
all the animals.
Eating all the animals. Man, that's going to be, I'm telling you, and that's one thing that Donald Trump really needs to lean into tonight during this debate. He has got to lean into immigration heavily and not just, hey, we need to build a wall, we need to get these people out of the country. He needs to talk about what that lady's talking about. He needs to talk about what the people of Chicago are talking about. Mm-hmm. Every city council meeting they have in Chicago, people are showing up and they're saying, hey, they got to go. Black people are showing up and they're like, Donald Trump's going to show up and clean house. Here's a Chicago resident right here talking about the immigration problem they got going on.
No, thank you. Let me ask you. Can you help me with the solution you'd like to see me do?
Surely, I can help you with the solution. I can give you I give you one simple answer. Send them back.
There you
That's
go.
The only solution.
Right. There you go.
That's it. Other than that, they will surpass us. It is math. It's simple math. They will overtake us in numbers at the rate that they have kids. They cannot be U.S. citizens. You are dooming our next generation to subservitude. I'm telling you this.
Okay.
It's just simple math.
I know, but
that's it. It's simple math.
I'm very good at math. Let me share something with you. Most of the persons that are here right now, under the technical definition, do not qualify for asylum.
I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about the children that they have. They will be U.S. citizens, and they will have a voting block. All we have to do now is look at the Hispanic voting block they have now. They get everything they want. Look at our communities. You should see the schools that they have as compared to the schools.
Yeah, so he goes into that whole thing about essentially being overtaken. There was the other lady that was talking about how they've got the same issue. She's like, hey, we're gonna clean house. Here she is right here. Listen to this. This is another Chicago resident showing up to these city council meetings.
Like in the words of Malcolm X, who told us what? That the white liberal is the worst enemy to the black man.
There you go.
Here. Preach it, girl.
Coming up in here, acting like y'all representing some social justice.
Say that,
but all along, you're doing is trying to use black people to find a reason to make some money. Let me tell y'all something over there.
Yeah.
We're done. The Democratic Party is done.
Abuse the black American.
Come in here and go clean it up. Do just like R.A. Jr. Just do like that Tulsa lady. You better get up out the Democratic Party. Save yourself. Because if y'all don't, we coming for your seats. We don't get to no disrespect from a bunch of people who have broke into the country and now have completely broke the city, have completely disgraced the United States of America. America is a disgrace. The number one function of a president is to be the commander-in-chief.
Yes.
You tell me anything about a Kamala Harris that look like she can protect this country after y'all have sat up here and let it get overridden with a bunch of illegals. Y'all have sat up here and put America's hands in all kind of wars. And you telling me a TACON man that ran from duty, Kamala Harris, who don't know what race she is, gonna protect this country? The devil is a lie.
There she goes. That's what I'm talking about. See, a tampon man's gonna save this country? Come on. I tell you what, that deserves a drink. Can we? You want to do that?
Sure.
You said you kept talking about the peanut butter whiskey, and I was going to do something a little different. I was going to go salted caramel, which is another good one.
Yes. But
then I got to the store, and there was a new flavor I have not seen yet.
What is it?
One of the ones that I really like is
Wait, don't tell us. I want to guess by the taste. How about that?
Okay, I guess.
I'm not gonna look.
All right. Yeah, don't look. Keep your eyes. Pull your shirt over your head or something. There you go. I actually think that looks funny. That's why I asked you to do it.
Cornholio.
I lost my head.
Oh, gosh.
All right.
There's a first for a podcast. Just cover your face.
Yeah. All right.
I already know what flavor this is. Oh,
Yeah, Tony Gump already knows. All right.
Let's see. I can tell from the pouring that it's okay.
All right, it's ready. Go ahead. No,
You
pull
can-
your
you
shirt
can-
down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
you're okay now.
Are you sure he's okay? I don't think he's okay.
Oh, he's good.
All right, now try it and tell us what you think it is.
All right, first. Interesting.
Wait. Before you start, close your eyes again. I'm going to show the camera what it is so the audience knows, okay?
Okay.
All right, put it on his camera. All right, now you can go.
This confuses me a little bit. Let's see. Oh, that's smooth. Damn, that's good. Wish you could chew this. Whoa, let me try. It's got a bite to it. This is peppermint.
Is that your final answer?
Wait.
I'm not going to give you a bunch of guesses. Now remember, it could be anything because this brand of whiskey really goes out there and gets a bunch of different flavors.
I'm thinking brownie.
You're close.
Is brownie your final answer? Well, obviously it's not his final answer.
We'll give him that much. Take one more.
You got that. That's your last hint.
It's close to brownie. It's got a peppermint kind of flavor.
I would consider it close.
Chocolate
to
cake.
Wow.
Final answer.
Final answer?
Final answer.
That's wrong. But it's cookie dough.
Oh, man, I was so stinking close.
You were close. You were close. I've actually never tried this, so I don't know.
Go ahead and pour me some, cuz.
Yeah, it's good.
Shout out to everybody in the chat, too, by the way. Thank you for being here.
I can smell the cookie dough in it for sure. All right. All in all, you're just a soy boy like Tim was. I spilled a little bit on the table. Sorry.
Oh, well.
Let's put that over here in an appropriate spot so the wide camera can see.
Yes.
Show the wide camera. Here we go. Tony Gump. Hit the wide camera and we'll all do a cheers right here. Ready? Cheers! There it is. All right.
Let me see what this tastes like. Is this cookie dough?
It is cookie dough.
Oh my gosh.
Good guess.
Yeah.
Great job, John
Fourth
Bird.
shot did
That's good.
Isn't it? It's dangerous.
I tell you,
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
smooth like the peanut butter was.
another good
dangerous.
one is there's a s'mores, and it's very similar to that one. There's a s'mores flavor, Old Smoky whiskey, and the reason I do Old Smoky because it's made in Tennessee. It's got that Tennessee state flag. I just like the label. But it's not high end whiskey. It's very it's not cheap, but it is cheap price wise, but it's not like you're not drinking, Skull vodka or whatever the hell people drink that are homeless.
So what you're saying is that though the price is less than the competitors, the quality does not reflect how much of a price discount you
Correct. Yes. Price is here. Quality is right around there.
Very smooth. This would be great at Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, this would be a great Christmas drink.
Little ice
You know
cream.
what? I am going to invent a Christmas drink out of this. So if you'll let me have that bottle, I will work on putting a Christmas drink together.
If I give you that bottle, you're going to be drunk. Is what's going to happen.
Well, no. I mean, I would work hard to come up with a drink.
All right. So, what do y'all think is going to happen tonight? A debate.
Slaughter.
You think it's going to be a slaughter?
Slaughter. Bloodbath.
Tony
Verbal
Gump,
bloodbath.
what do you expect coming out of this?
I think it's going to be interesting considering there's a crowd this time, where last time there wasn't a crowd. But she's not going to have the gotcha, like, I'm speaking moment because of the mics. So, I mean, it's a toss-up. I was wrong last time. I have no idea. But in theory, I would think Trump would dominate this.
Yes, because he dominated last time. But take Joe Biden out of the equation. He did a fantastic job working with that mic situation. He was very presidential. He wasn't a smartass.
No.
So I think with him being set up with this, all he has to do, if he'll do what he did last time, there will be such a difference between the two.
Well, the reason he did what he did last time was because of the mic situation, which is implemented here as well.
Right.
So,
but it served him well.
It does. It did. But I'm kind of like, I'd like to just see him go at it, no holds barred, and let him go back and forth because. But at the same time, that's only to benefit us that are already voting for Donald Trump, and it's not necessarily benefiting the independent voters, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's what it's really about. I mean, Donald Trump has got the people that are voting for Trump at this point that have declared that they are, that's what's going to happen. But, I mean, how... Oh, God, I don't know. I mean, Kamala Harris is still a new candidate. So I'm trying to think of how many undecideds are there really out there.
I think that there is a level as things start to come out and people start to realize more and more, and we keep having these incidents about these immigrants and all this. You've got people that are going to get to the level where they're like, okay, I hate Trump, but I see what the left is doing, that they're going to have to weigh. They might have to hold their nose and vote for Trump, but I still think that there are people out there that right now are going to vote for Kamala, that between now and November will change because things will continue to get worse. We're seeing it. Now it's focusing on immigration.
Here's what Trump needs to do. He's going to say, do you love your cat more than you hate me? If so, I think you know what to do. Vote for Big Daddy Don.
Wow.
Do you love the geese in your local park more than you hate Donald Trump? I think you know what to do. Otherwise, Haitians are going to eat your shit. Well, not your shit, but your animals.
And there are some Haitians that are cannibals.
And they might eat.
They might eat you. Why? You're like, give me my cat back. Beat him over the head. And, well, I don't know the language, so I was speaking.
I think that's probably
Haitian.
pretty close. I mean, if we're just spitballing here. Okay, so we're going to be... Oh, ABC has got Tom Cotton on right now. Can we go to that just for a minute? Tom Cotton's a very smart guy. I like this dude.
Hear from the two candidates about their record. People remember that with Donald Trump, they had good times.
Yeah.
They had rising wages. They had stable prices. We had peace and stability. And with Kamala Harris, a dangerous San Francisco liberal, and Joe Biden in the White House, we've had none of that. So I think it's going to be a clear contrast between President Trump and Kamala Harris tonight. And the American people, starting tonight and over the next 8 weeks, are going to make the decision that they want President Trump back in the White House.
All right, there's Senator Cotton with one side of this debate, very sharply worded. Mary, the other side.
For the other side now, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro joins us, of course, a key surrogate for the Harris campaign. You heard Senator.
Honestly, Kamala Harris missed out by not getting this guy.
You've seen the polling.
And going with Tim Walz. She really kicked herself in the walls by picking him.
Her last best chance to reach out to those critical voters, show them who she really is, what she stands for.
Look, I'm not sure what world Senator Cotton was living in, but when Donald Trump was in charge, the only thing we had more of in this country was more chaos.
Money.
And I think under Kamala Harris,
and money.
You're going to see
and border security,
who's compassionate, who cares deeply
and less
about
wars.
the welfare of all Americans, no matter what they look like, where they come from, who they love, who they pray to. An economic message.
I want you. This is the Kamala Harris watch party. Look in the background at the men.
I expect you'll see Kamala Harris.
They're all little scrawny soy boys.
This guy's got a man bag.
Look at him.
And prosecute the case
and it's a 47 Kamala.
You mentioned the case
with
against
pink
Trump.
shorts.
What about Joe Biden? How does she go about building off?
I think he had a horse with him too.
They all rode horses to the debate party.
Well, serving as Joe Biden's vice president made her fit and ready to serve on day one. I think it's important that we examine Kamala Harris's positions.
I feel like we're an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
Or something.
what positions?
Elections are about the future.
Willie Brown knows what
Harris's
position.
vision for the
Yeah, I
future
bet.
is a stark contrast to the dangerous vision of the future that Donald Trump has. One of less freedom and more chaos under Donald Trump.
The chaos came from the left and the media during his time,
Governor
Trump's
Shapiro,
time.
thank you so much. All right, so we've talked to
I feel like I'm being brainwashed all over again watching this.
Somebody who has both debated Donald Trump and helped him prepare for big debates, with tonight's showdown less than 14 minutes away.
Okay. Yeah, that
I'll
guest
keep it on
is-
mute on the bottom.
guest will not be Joe Biden, by the way.
Really?
No. Look, we're going to bring Joe Biden in for expert analysis to talk about what's going to happen in this debate since he's done it. Joe Biden was asked as he was getting on Air Force One today. He's going to New York. Tomorrow's obviously 9/11. And so he's going to be at one of those ceremonies, and he said something about going to his granddaughter's birthday party. We know which granddaughter it is not.
Mm-hmm.
She lives in Arkansas. And they asked him, hey, have you talked to Kamala? Is she ready for this debate? He says, yes, she's ready. She's really prepared. And I'm not going to give you the advice. I'm not going to tell you the advice that I gave her. And I'm like, what kind of advice did you give her? Like, don't do what I did? That's all you got. Like, I got knocked out of the race because of my debate performance.
Exactly. It's just amazing how they continue. And you're not going to learn any more about her policies tonight. I don't believe you're going to know any more about her policies than you did before the debate.
Well, you've got where she has had extreme left policies. I mean, extreme policies, where she's now coming around and she's saying, oh, no, I don't support that. I support this. I support the more moderate stuff, blah, 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 which is all a lie. Even Bernie Sanders was on TV the other day, and they asked him about it because he's probably the closest to Kamala in, as far as extremist goes. And he's like, well, you know, she doesn't back away from her values, but she's got a race to win. And I'm like, so you're just saying she's just lying about it? She's just saying that because...
That's pretty good Bernie. By the way, that's a great Bernie.
Bernie Sanders. Well, I don't know how to do a Bernie.
That's pretty good, that Sanders. I like the way you did that.
Kamala is going to win this debate. Huh?
Look at him.
What are you yelling?
Is Bernie in the room? Dang.
Oh, Bernie, man.
I
Bernie.
can say this about the people that haven't decided yet. I actually know a couple people that hate Trump with a passion, but are now going to vote for him just because it's that bad.
Yeah, I mean, you have to decide. Do you want to continue living like you're living? I mean, I don't know how people in big cities like Los Angeles or these places how they can afford to live. And these young soy boys and purple hair girls, where are they living?
They
Are there
move.
like
They
10 of
move
them to an apartment or what?
What they do is they go and buy super cheap property in the hood. You just take, for example, in Birmingham, in Avondale, Woodlawn area. All right, this is predominantly the hood. I mean, it's and it's just how it works out. It's how it pans out. And so they start moving in there because at the end of the day, they're trying to virtue signal. They're like, oh, I want to live among the black people. And then they end up getting real estate that's for like really cheap. And then next thing you know, because they're in a bad part of town where the crime is high or whatever, they're like, oh, we got to get out of here. And I'm like, why don't you just use your brain? Like, and it ain't even a black or white thing. It's like you can go to any area and look up the crime statistics. And that's the reason the real estate's low, because the crime is high. But you want a virtue signal, and you want to be like, look at me, I'm living in the low economic part of the
You've got
city.
2.5 generations of idiots with no common sense. You really do. I mean, the common sense is absent from everything on the left. Everything. Nothing that they stand for or that they're talking about makes any sense.
No. They just, It's all about feelings, man. That's really at the end of the day. That's what it's about.
See, I got a nephew. I guess Gen Z. He blames his own generation for all of this, and he seemed kind of bad about it. And I told him, look, it's really not you. It's whoever taught you.
Yeah.
It's the generation before you didn't take the time to teach you properly all the common sense stuff that you should know. That's my take on it.
I had a conversation today about younger people, people in their 20s who have parents that are Trump supporters, like avid Trump supporters. They will then turn around and support the opposite, in this case Kamala, because of some sort of animosity towards their parents. Instead of looking at the big picture and saying what's in my best interest, they say, oh, the way my parents act about Trump is so cringe, I'm voting for the other person. Not realizing that voting for the other person is very detrimental to you and your livelihood.
Yep.
Yeah, it depends who's buying the groceries and paying for the gasoline, quite frankly.
Yep.
There was, I guess it's maybe 10 minutes from my house. I saw my first Harris Wall sign, yard sign. Never seen one before. This is the first time I've seen one. And it was in a nice house with a big piece of property. And I'm thinking, are you stupid?
No, they probably have several immigrants living in there. Maybe some Haitians.
They should.
Throw some Haitians in there.
I can't wait for those people to be paying capital gains tax on a house they're not selling. And their taxes go up by, 70%. Good luck, buddy. That's what you wanted. Speaking of hungry Haitians, here's Chris Christie on TV. We want to see what he's saying. Just watching him makes me hungry.
David and Lindsay, and through any comments that Vice President Harris makes in his direction.
Looks like he had a lot of cookie dough.
That'll be the key to how he performs tonight.
He ate the leftover cookie dough that they used to strain this through.
Hillary Clinton. He told you that he had respect for Hillary Clinton, that Hillary Clinton was smart as you were preparing. What about Kamala Harris? We hear not the same.
Oh.
Well, certainly he's not saying that publicly in any way. And I can tell you that in 2016, he would regularly say during the many debate prep sessions that we had with him that Hillary Clinton was smart, that she was a good debater, that she was not to be taken lightly. And I don't think there was ever a moment in 2016 where he took her lightly. I do think he took Joe Biden lightly in 2020. And clearly during the prep sessions that I had with him, it was very, very difficult to get him to focus on what Joe Biden might or might not do in that first debate. And I think his performance in part reflected that. So the question's going to be, is what he's saying publicly what he really believes? We know that often with Donald Trump, that's performance. But I will tell you that in his 2016 prep, he was serious about getting ready for Hillary Clinton. In his 2020 debate prep, he was completely unserious about
Governor
getting ready
Christie
for Joe
needs
Biden.
Mandu.
I think performances
yes, he does.
Yeah.
reflected that approach.
All right.
Shout
Chris
out to
Christie,
Still
you'll be
Doing
watching
Life.
with us. Martha?
And we have about 6 minutes left before the debate.
She's looking
let's
rough.
Bring in Donna Brazile, formerly with the DNC.
Oh, Donna Brazile, who gives the Democrats the debate questions in advance.
Donna, let's start with
yeah.
you. You have said that Kamala Harris has to own the future, but
Is she
she
here to sell
also
syrup or
has to
something?
own the past. So how does she do this?
I don't know. Never mind.
Quite easy.
Donna Brazile looks all
Because I do
dolled up
believe
for
that
some
in
reason.
talking about the future, you draw from your past. You draw from your past experiences. She draws from how she was raised, the values that was instilled in her as a young
She does look a lot younger
Look,
than she actually
steady
is.
on
Probably a
her
lot of
feet,
Botox
still in
going
her
on there.
resolve.
Well, Hillary
And
got quite a bit of
tonight
it
she
too
should talk to the
recently.
American people,
Yeah.
sit in their living rooms, go to their kitchen table and say, look, I have some ideas that I want to share with you. There's so much that we have done together over the last 4 years, but here's what I think we can do together over the next 4 years. Be positive in her approach and really remind the American people that we don't want to go back to the chaos and the confusion, the disaster that made, of course, the American people go out in droves in 2020 to fire the former
That's all they've got. That's all they've got.
all they've got.
All they have is to say that it's chaos. If you go back to Trump, it's chaos again.
They're ignoring the past 4 years, and that's going to be the issue.
And they're talking about their chaos, their BLM, their Antifa, their
to the Biden
COVID.
administration's any mistakes they made too, and Donald Trump is going to go after her on that.
You know, Martha, they made mistakes. Donald Trump and Mr.
Here we
Pence
go.
made mistakes. But
Blame
you know
him.
what? If we focus on our mistakes, we won't focus on all of the good things that we could do together as Americans. I do believe there's something to say about people who are now able to work. The people who can buy their insulin without paying over $1,000, $35.
But can't handle groceries.
There's
Trump
so
did
much
that.
good she can talk about, from the visits that she's made to small towns.
Trump
across
capped
this
it at
country,
$35.
cities across
Biden
the country.
canceled
Bring
it
us
and then
together.
redid it to
American
say he
people
did it.
want to be led into the future, not dragged back to another era.
And Reince, I want your thoughts on, you've also prepped Donald Trump for debates back in 2016, I believe. What
He looks like he got electrocuted or something. I don't know what's going on.
Can he be disciplined about talking
Like that
about
tie.
policies and what kind of president he will be?
Well, he certainly can be. I mean, the reality is Donald Trump doesn't have a lot to lose tonight. I mean, his support has always been almost unmovable. So the second piece is the honeymoon, I think, is over for Kamala Harris. And you all kind of touched on it with Donna.
He said Kamala Harris. He's pronouncing her name wrong.
Economy that she took a role in the Biden administration, the border, you know, her past positions on decriminalizing the border, decriminalizing certain drugs, what her role was in Afghanistan. So really, the spotlight is on Kamala Harris tonight because she played a role in the Biden administration. She wants to act like she's not an incumbent. So this is where the focus is going to be. And she's got a lot to answer for tonight. And I think that's where Donald Trump's focus will be and where it actually should be tonight.
Well, one of the things
Where should
he
his
wants
focus
to
be,
do
John Bird?
is have female
Where should his
voters
focus
look at him.
be?
Yeah.
How does he
On
attract
Kamala Harris, the
female
idiot.
voters after saying
She's an
things
idiot.
about Kamala Harris, and we'll see
The
how
only
he
one that can
pronounces
beat
that
Trump tonight is Trump.
Things
Egg,
he
thank
said
you.
about
Yep.
Kamala Harris, that she's dumb as a rock. That's not really going to attract female voters, is it?
Nah, female
She is
voters
dumb as a
know
rock.
that she's dumb as a rock.
No, it won't. But I also think that just like he did in the first debate against Joe Biden, I think the formula here is to constantly
2 minutes.
tie Kamala Harris to the Biden administration,
Yes.
which is where Trump is winning against her on the economy, inflation, and all these other problems that we're having. And then sit back and let her talk. Let her explain herself, her
Yes.
past positions, current positions. How does she feel about how Biden has done on the economy? How does she feel about the
make
border?
her
Then turn it over
admit
and let her
that she
talk.
knew Biden was in bad shape
thanks so much
and
for
she
joining us
lied to
tonight
the
on
American
Reince. We'll
people
stay
about
tuned.
it.
Can't wait.
And I have to say, as we are just a couple of less than 2 minutes away, this is such an extraordinary moment, and especially, Rachel, when you consider that
These
two people that have been
announcers,
the
these
center of our lives
journalists
for the last 2 months
are terrified
never met
of
each other.
what's about to happen. They are scared to death that Kamala Harris is about to go in here and toss a word salad on national TV.
Yeah. I will say one thing about him. They've at least been balanced as far as having Republicans speak and a Democrat speak.
Yeah, they're putting on. ABC News tries to act like they're unbiased, but
rising above the needle and coming her way. But first and foremost, are we going to see a handshake when the two of them meet?
yeah, that's another thing. These two have never met in person. This is the very first time they're meeting in person.
I hope that if they do shake hands, Trump gets right in on her and grabs that hand and puts his hand on her shoulder, just like he did with Putin. Yeah, yeah.
He might
Get in her
not.
face.
What if he catches something?
Oh, I'm sure he's been vaccinated.
So with the stakes so high, the presidential debate just moments away.
Yep, incoming train wreck, Oddmont says.
Keeping an eye on everything. We're going to be fact-checking on our live blog.
One more cheers for Donald Trump. Here we go. Cheers.
Cheers, buddies.
Cheers.
From over here, yep.
And
Gotcha.
we will be back with our post-game show as soon as it's over. We are going
Our
to
post-game show.
Is this the
Here we
NFL?
go. Most watched debate ever.
Tonight, the high-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Their first face-to-face meeting in this presidential election, their first face-to-face meeting ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
This is an ABC News special.
All right, fellas.
ABC News.
Together, we will
Oh, he said Kamala, the announcer.
Donald Trump.
We will
It is Kamala.
It is Kamala, apparently. Everything else is racist.
Just think Kamala at the beginning.
Kamala.
The ABC News presidential
Kamala
debate.
is what they used to say.
Yeah. David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
All right.
Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate.
popcorn
We
ready.
want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight.
And Over the Line
Vice President
podcast.
Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President
Look at
Donald
him reading
Trump
their
in June.
teleprompter.
Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2
Donna
minutes for
Brazil.
rebuttals and 1 minute for
Where's the
follow-ups,
people?
clarifications, or responses.
I
Their
just see empty
microphones will
chairs.
only be turned on when it's their
Did they
turn to
change their
speak.
mind?
No pre-written notes allowed.
Maybe one of
There is
Kamala's
no audience
buses
here tonight
didn't
in
make
this
it.
hall at the National Constitution
Unless it's
Center.
pre-recorded.
They may have
pre-recorded
two
it.
candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening.
Yes.
Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Oh, they didn't introduce them individually.
She's going to shake hands.
She
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
have fun.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country.
Good start.
Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class.
Here we go.
And I
Yes.
am actually the only person
Yes.
on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class.
I'll take
and working
Italian
class
dressing.
of
She's not
America.
answering.
I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We
Look at
know
him.
that we
Trump's
have
like,
a shortage
okay.
of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people.
Yep.
We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000,
She's
which is
just
the largest
she's shooting her entire
child tax
load right
credit
here
that
on the
we have
first
given in a
question.
long time,
Yep.
so that those young families can afford to buy a crib,
She's
buy a
scared
car
to
seat,
death.
buy clothes for
Can
their
see it in her
children.
eyes.
My passion, one of them, is small businesses. I was actually, my mother raised my sister and
Aw.
me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses.
Her right ear is hidden.
My plan is to give
Her store
a
was in a coconut tree.
$50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big
Here we go.
corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
The
Economists have
Trump
said
sales
that
tax.
Trump sales tax
She's
would
trying to
actually
get him
result
going.
for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were
Go
just
ahead.
a few
There you
years
go.
ago.
React.
This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and
straight to
insane
immigration,
asylums.
baby.
And
Let's
they're coming
go.
in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics.
There you go.
And
Make the
also
face.
Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio.
Yes.
You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but
Just knocked it
I would
out
like
of
to
the
let
park.
Vice President Harris
I think
respond.
that's
on
one
the comment
zip.
here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us.
Oh, okay.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
Really?
Donald Trump left us the worst public
Because the
health
Democrat
epidemic
Congress
in a century.
was paying people to
Donald
stay
Trump
home.
left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
There we go. January
And what we
6th. Go
have
there.
done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling.
Yeah, from
what
you.
you're going to hear tonight is a
You're not getting
detailed
name calling
and
from
dangerous
Trump tonight.
plan
He's
called
focused.
Project 2025.
Are you enjoying your
that
salad,
the
John
former
Bird?
president intends
Yes.
on implementing
It's
if he were
delicious.
elected again.
2025. It's already been
believe
debunked
very
by the
strongly
left.
That the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world.
Yep.
We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs
I
they got
love
were
those
bounce back
faces.
jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back, and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's
I love
all
when he
about
makes that
tax breaks
face,
to
too.
the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity
Nothing.
economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America.
Yeah.
What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the
is
Wharton
yours?
School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle
Like
of
in
next year
2016.
would invite a recession. You just
I
have
wonder,
to look
where is this
at where
crowd?
we
You've
are
not
and where we
heard a
stand on
clap,
the
a
issues.
cheer,
And
or
I'd
nothing.
invite you to
Last
know
minute, they
that
pulled him.
Donald Trump actually
think
has
so?
no
Yep.
plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people
Shake
want to be
that head,
able
girl.
to go
Shake
and work
it.
and create
Like you
jobs
shook
and
your
create a
ass
lot
to-
of
I'd be
good,
calm down.
solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences. Like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to happen?
idiots.
Who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military. Basically,
Joe are letting spy balloons fly over our military bases.
She's trying to look. She's looking over there, trying to get him to react, and he's not. I knew it would happen.
Which
like
means
this.
focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce, so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking.
People don't care. Move on, idiot.
Origins of COVID.
Wait a minute. Is she finally admitting that it didn't come from a bat?
The chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's going to my philosophy. If she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what
who
she's
told her
done
to do
our
that?
country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy.
He keeps going back to immigration. That's good.
We'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion.
So far, pretty
President
good.
Trump, you
Yeah,
often
look at the
touted
seats
that
are
you were
empty.
able
They
to
pulled
kill
the
Roe
audience.
v.
Yep, they did.
They lied
Last
about
year,
the
you
audience.
said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not
West
the
Virginia.
current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
It's on
and that's
video,
why
Kamala.
I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years.
Yep.
Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government.
There we
They
go.
had great
People.
service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Here we go.
Vice President, want to get your response to
He didn't say it was. He said
as
that
I said, you're gonna
the
hear a bunch
former
of
governor of
lies,
Virginia
and that's not actually a surprising
said
fact.
that. He did
Let's
say
understand
that.
how we got here.
All she's doing is attacking.
Donald Trump
She's said nothing.
hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life.
It's not health care.
Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body.
They drive to the next
That is
state.
immoral. And one does
Immoral?
not have to abandon
You want to talk
their
immoral?
faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women
Or what not to
around
do.
our country. You want to talk about this
Just
is
like
what
the
people
vaccine
wanted?
Yeah.
Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot.
Oh, God.
She didn't want that.
That's made
Her
up
husband
shit.
didn't want that.
Excuse me.
A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term? They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade. As President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be
here we go.
a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body,
the freedom to feed
should
yourself,
not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe.
Yeah.
The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond. But I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples
abortion
pray
bans
and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women.
Time to hit Tim Walls.
Who are working 1 or 2 jobs.
Come on,
who
Donald.
can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Well, then good. Good for
I have to
you.
respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, they You should ask.
She got you.
Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay.
You shouldn't be able to hear her.
Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question?
Check it out.
Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question. Would you
There you go.
veto?
Talk
do
over him.
abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month.
They've
the
got her
9th
mic
month,
up.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June,
John Bird's going to sit here and twist that cork until it...
restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported.
Here we go.
And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country.
Thanks to you.
That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there. And showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't like my rallies.
This?
We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics.
Somebody told her to do that.
That's because people want to take their country back.
Yeah, it's a bad look.
Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in.
There it is.
The cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
She looks like a fool.
As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, will end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured,
What a
or
lie.
abused by individuals
I know it.
within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this-
seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
The people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that.
Oh,
Vice President
the city
Harris, I'll let you
manager
respond to the
who
rest
is
of what-
likely voting for Kamala Harris.
Talk about it.
Ah, there we go. Come on, give us a laugh.
You know, this is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney.
So a bunch of elites.
And
Gotcha.
if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a
They haven't
bad
given
job.
bad camera
I fired
angles.
them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the
Yeah.
13 people.
Bring it around.
Who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it.
There you go. That's
Because
what I'm talking
they're
about.
destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made.
Fired up.
Crime in this country is through the roof.
And
we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
There we go. Yes.
National security crimes,
yes.
Economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts.
The former vice president.
So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted.
No, they're not.
The same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris,
with you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again.
Just like Biden.
Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me.
There you go.
They talk about
there you go.
democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
we do have a lot
that
to get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking, because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil.
Oh.
We have had the
You know how you reduce your reliance on foreign oil? You drill
domestic
for
oil
oil
production in history because of an
let's
approach
push
that
EVs
recognizes
down
that
everybody's
we cannot
throat.
over-rely
Did you say
on
EDs?
foreign oil.
ED
As it relates
for
to my
Joe
values,
Biden,
let me tell you, I
but
grew up
EV.
a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother.
Oh, God, here we
worked
go.
and saved.
Shut
and was able
up.
to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my
Dude, when
work
people
to
say
we
Donald
are
Trump's
going
not
to
successful,
work with
it
the
is
private sector and
hilarious.
home
It is.
builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My
Donald
work
Trump could pull
that
out
is
his
related
wallet and
to
pay
having
Kamala
a
Harris enough
friend when I
money to
was in
drop
high
out of the
school who was
race
sexually
right
assaulted
now.
by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings
What's
values
important is people
and
need
a perspective
food.
that is about lifting
They
people
need to be able
up
to live.
and
This
not
stuff is
beating
all
people
nothing
down.
compared to how bad things
and
are.
name calling. The true measure of the leader is
Yeah,
the
he's called you a lot of
leader
names,
who
hasn't he,
actually
tonight?
understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever.
Yeah. Yes,
She
you
gave
have.
all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a
She
minute.
said that's
I'm
not
talking
true.
Now, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
Oh, damn.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals
Look at her
that
face.
killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things
Yes,
that
you did.
nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400,
President
500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy. And the role
cornerstone of our
in a moment
democracy.
of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border
This is
zone,
smart
remember
because
that.
people don't care about J6 anymore.
Thank you.
It's an afterthought for a lot of
She's
people.
embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said
He's
at the
going
beginning,
back.
"Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the
Where it
border yet."
needs to.
That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
And the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
Oh, God.
My God.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th.
I bet you were.
I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator.
I bet
I was
you were.
there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate
She's gonna
our
start
nation's
crying.
capital. On that day,
Don't cry.
140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died.
No, they didn't.
And understand,
Fact check. I can't
former
wait.
president
They didn't
has
die
been
as a result
indicted
of
and
the
impeached
January
for
6th.
exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches.
Oh, she's about to go verify.
spewing
She's about to go verifying
anti-Semitic
people.
hate.
Here we go.
And what did the president then at the time say?
Verifying people, hoax.
There were fine people on each side.
There it is.
Let's remember
Everybody knows that's fake now.
when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was,
Nobody cares.
I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page.
Right. Don't go back to
And
the
if
past
that
3.5
was a bridge
years.
too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the
He's ready to
chaos,
pounce.
and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath.
Oh.
If this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
Oh, my God.
Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart
Look
a
at him.
course
He's ready.
for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed.
Look, even she wants to laugh at that one.
Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide.
Claim that you won.
In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker.
Andrew, don't do it. We need to cut Tony off.
We should just point out
He's
here
had
as
too much.
clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
no
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said
they
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread
standing.
fraud.
That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have
Bringing
a
it back.
nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's gone in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump
Softball.
was fired.
Yeah,
by
he
81 million
set her up for that one.
Yeah.
So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you
Nobody believes that.
I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States.
You haven't been down to the
And
border.
world
but
leaders
once.
are laughing at Donald
Europe.
Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when
He's already
you then
addressed that.
talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost
Here we
because
go.
you did in fact lose that
The
election.
court cases were never heard.
It leads one to
Nope.
believe that perhaps
Can't lose
we
a
do
court
not
case
have
that's
in
not
the
heard.
candidate to my
Exactly.
right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about
Oh, now
facts.
they're trying
That's
to pull the
deeply
Joe Biden
troubling,
card.
and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just tell you about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart.
I doubt
Prime
she knows who
Minister
it
of
is.
Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because
He
you
needs to
need
bring up
Trump
Putin
back
endorsing
as
Kamala.
president. They were afraid of him.
I hope
China
he's
was
going there.
afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What
Yeah,
you did,
go
you
that
talk
route.
about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he had 14
I knew.
million
That's right.
votes.
That's right.
They threw him out. She got zero
she knows it.
votes.
Look at her
And when
face.
she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here.
No,
On
no.
October 7,
Answer the question.
a terrorist organization
Here she goes. Here,
slaughtered
kids.
1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now.
When she starts
Israel
rambling, let's do
has
the
a right to defend
JJJ.
itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately.
It must
and
win?
The way it
The
will
war
end,
must
we
win.
need a ceasefire deal, and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that.
What are you going to do?
Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution,
isn't
there must
one.
be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel.
Far left doesn't like
But we
that.
must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party.
She really
hates
was.
Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known
Stupid
move. Dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine.
What?
It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant
There you go. There you go, buddy.
He's
taking my advice.
Absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center
That
right here in
means-
Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
I can finally go pee. Is that right?
I went about 10 minutes ago.
I wonder what kind of... Oh, did you go in your pants?
Well, yeah, I can do what I want. I'm 61 years old. I'm going to pee wherever I want.
That's true, actually. Once you get to your age, you can just pee wherever you want.
That's right. But you know what? I challenge you.
Hey, listen. Well, as you go into that spiel, I'm going to go pee. So just
go
cut
pee.
loose.
Let me tell you, folks. When I was younger, I won 2 arm wrestling championships, and I'm still just as strong as I used to be. So if anybody wants to challenge me, come on, bring it. As long as you're 70 years or older, bring it. I'll take you on. You're daggone right. But you got to be liberal. You got to be a soy boy or a soy old man. So I will take on any liberal right now, anywhere. I'll even use my left hand, and I'll close my eyes, and I will take you down. You know what? I'm gonna lower that age. 17 to 90. Bring it. You know what? I'll take on 2. That's right. 2 left arms against my 1 left arm. Just bring it. You know? And I hope your hair's colored and you got all those, nose rings and all that. Now, I'm cool with earrings because I had 3 hoops back in the day, but they were in the left ear because back then, left was right, as they said. But let me tell you, nose rings will kill you. When you get older and it starts sagging, you'll take it out, but you're going to have a hole there. And don't tell me, I used to wear fish hooks for earrings. Okay, I was that much of a badass. But let me tell you something. I dealt with infections, but I can't imagine how many infections you nose ring people deal with, especially when you go right here. It's got to be nasty. I would never marry anybody that had an infected nose ring.
I don't know what happened between when I left and when I got back, but it is 2 totally different conversations. So, congratulations.
Yeah. I'm just fired up. I'm sorry. I'm fired up. I've had a few drinks.
He was very passionate, yeah.
Yes.
I really got to start utilizing the fact that I can just tell John Bird just cut loose for approximately 45 seconds.
I don't even remember what I said the past 4 minutes, to be honest.
Well, you started off talking about peeing your pants and ended with nose ring infections.
And I didn't really I didn't really pee my pants.
Okay, that's good.
I didn't really pee my pants. I would never do that. I've got the bladder of a 21-year-old. Thank you.
That's good. You are a very youthful person. I will give you that for your age.
I didn't used to be. I used to be a very old person for my age.
So were you is it like a Benjamin Button deal or what's?
No, a lot of people probably know. I lost everything because of the way I was, and then I realized what was important, and you got X amount of time left, and I'm going to be who I am because this is who I am, and I tried to suppress who I was for decades.
So now you don't have anything, but you're happy compared to losing everything.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Isn't that the globalist plan for 2030? You'll own nothing and be happy?
You own nothing and you're happy.
How dare you, Tony? Get over here. I'll arm wrestle you right now. You can use both your arms on my left arm, baby. What do you think? Huh?
Look at that. Give us a little flex again.
I'm actually a little scared. I don't know.
Hold on. Get both of these things. Now, I'm not Andrew. Don't get me. I know I'm not an Andrews, in your league, but...
That's pretty good. Well, those tan lines are kicking too.
Oh yeah, I hadn't spent much time out in the sun.
Just don't stare into the sun, okay?
Yeah, I've done that one time. It was not good.
You got to do like me and go to the tanning bed. See, I have to keep a solid color going on right here. Look at that.
Oh, we're getting ready to come back. Shout out to everybody in the chat, by the way.
All right, here we go.
Oh, he's walking down. Did he go to a pee break too?
He must have. I got to pee.
And he's getting on a helicopter. This is the weirdest debate ever. Oh, it's a promo.
Did you see how they were kind of helping her out as opposed to the CNN debate where they just kept it straight up?
Oh, yeah. They would ask the question and then they would say, tell us why you're 100% correct on the issue.
Yeah. No,
it's like, what the?
Such a farce, man. Here we go.
All right, here we go.
Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Constitution Center.
Donald Trump wants to cancel the Constitution Center.
Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
Oh, my God.
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being
We don't care who wins. We just want to stop sending them money.
The millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for $250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. they're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here...
They threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Good point. Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of
these he's colluding with Russia. That's why he says that.
Destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also, as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Not much.
Even though I got no votes.
Within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded. Tried
That's not something to brag about, kid.
Territorial boundaries to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean.
Ukraine is losing hundreds of thousands of citizens thanks to these people.
Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Oh, that was a mistake.
From both of you on Ukraine
that was
tonight.
A mistake.
Afghanistan came up in the last hour.
Let him respond.
Let him respond. And now, please, I'll give you a minute here.
That's right.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that.
By the way, Trump
and
basically demanded the moderator give him a minute, and he ultimately did. Did you notice that?
He does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate.
Yeah, he has taken command of this debate.
Did the invasion.
Like he's
President
even
Trump,
pushing the moderators around.
To negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
He has yet to look at her.
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should. As a leader,
spending trillions of dollars of our money,
rules
and this is why we drink.
Understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what
I like strong
No facts. No facts. All emotion.
Commander-in-Chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility.
And the significance of time to be unburdened by what has been.
We stand up for our principles and not
stand up for that coconut tree.
For the benefit of personal flattery.
Trying to be tough.
You talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying,
dude, when he wants his 1 minute rebuttal, he forces them to give it to him.
Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
And guess who wasn't there? Joe Biden.
Do you believe you bear
Kamala
any
Harris.
responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Neither of them were there.
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day.
Oh, God. Instead, we're paying illegals.
She needs to watch out. She needs to run for the hills.
There's not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans.
Which many presidents have invited hostile leaders time and time again, all throughout time.
Respected world leaders. And this former president,
I love it.
Invited them
I dare you.
To Camp David because he does not again appreciate the
unhinged
role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. Yeah. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss.
That's right.
President Trump, thank you.
I like that.
I want to move on now to race and politics in this country.
I bet
Mr.
you
President,
do.
you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's.
He's
honestly,
a
I think
racist.
It's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families.
Lies.
Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5.
Were they eating duck?
Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States.
I mean...
And I think the American people...
If it walks like a duck,
better
eat
than
it.
that.
Kill it and eat it.
If it walks like a Kenyan, talks like a
Want
Kenyan.
someone who understands as I do. I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor.
No.
We don't want a
Most African
leader who
Americans
is
don't because of
constantly
you.
trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
Yeah.
This is the most divisive presidency.
Yep.
In the history of our country.
Bingo.
There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up,
I
Lindsay.
want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden. And I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
No, you don't. Oh, my God.
Straight to
What
globalism.
is possible. One who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do.
What are you
instead
gonna
of
do?
always
Tell us.
disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare
You can't
the
strengthen
plans.
a strong business
I have
until
a
you take care
plan
of these issues we're
to
dealing
give
with.
startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000
The plan,
for
the
young
plan.
families.
What
for
is
the
your
first
plan
year
for
of their child's
immigration?
life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of
Which will cause the
conversation, I
price of a
believe,
home to go
David,
up $25,000.
that people really want tonight,
Yep.
as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's turn
Trump,
back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police.
God,
She has a
he
plan
commands
to
the
confiscate
attention.
everybody's gun.
They said, we're not going to give you the time, but he takes it anyway.
Fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's
you,
what
Mr.
her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond.
Oh, now she wants
Here we go.
Something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry.
No,
We're gonna-
no.
They're not going to give. Don't give it to her.
Don't give it to her.
President
Come
Trump,
on.
This is now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed
See,
to repeal. and
Trump can
replace
get
the
it
Affordable
every
Care
single
Act,
time.
also known
Kamala
as
Harris can't get
Obamacare.
it
You
when
have
she
failed
asks
to
for it.
accomplish that. You
Oh,
now
that's
say you're
good.
going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care. Always
Yes.
was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this. I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not-too-distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system.
Oh, God,
could you imagine? 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away.
Yeah, but his,
stop with the continuous lie about this stuff.
But his are BB guns.
As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand.
And he shoots tampons.
His are horse tranquilizers.
When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company
No, they don't. They're busy
deny
trying to live on what you've done.
If a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor,
someone was starving,
if a grandparent had diabetes, and thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we, over the last 4 years, have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed, for the first time, Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it.
Where in the Constitution does that say it's a right?
To strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris,
in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
made
of...
a mistake.
Let her, let her respond.
John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for
Bring RFK on board. That's always got to say.
The former president had said the climate change is
Donald Trump to say,
and
she's right, it's a hoax.
It's very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is
extreme
either
weather,
being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up.
Florida's having hurricanes.
You ask anybody who has been the victim
Alabama's
of
having
what
tornadoes.
That means in
it's
terms
climate
of losing
change.
their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production, to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world.
Nobody
Donald Trump said he
cares.
was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs.
No, he didn't.
And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it between him and his son.
There we go.
They get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Good job,
We'll be right
Donald
back with
Trump.
closing statements from
Good
both
job.
candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Dude, that was, and I didn't know if he was going to bring that up or not, but that was a good way to go, because you can still tie that to Kamala Harris and say these people are absolutely corrupt. The only thing I have not heard out of him that I want to hear is asking her why she hid Joe Biden's health condition and how he was deteriorating, because all the way up until that debate, she was like, oh, Joe Biden's fine. He's going to be our next president. Blah, 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 blah. Why did you say that? Because you knew he was in bad shape. Everybody knew. Why did you try to hide it?
Yeah, it's like everybody in the country knew. How could you not have known? You know, I mean, hopefully he will. What do you guys think about ABC News so far? I mean, I personally expected it to be a lot worse. I mean, it's better than I hoped for.
ABC News has got this thing where they at least attempt to pretend that they're not biased, but they would go for questions where you're like, oh, I'm glad they're asking Kamala that question. But then they would turn around and throw Kamala a question and give her the answer for it and say, tell us why you're right on this issue.
Yeah.
You know, so it's half and half, but I don't know. I mean, even CNN seemed somewhat fair during the Biden debate, but
well, I mean, he definitely has owned them. But in a polite way. The thing is, if you notice, I've noticed he has not looked at Kamala once. He
really hasn't.
He has not acknowledged her at all. He's speaking directly to the camera, which means he's speaking directly to the American people.
That's right.
And she's got 4 faces she's practiced in the mirror.
Yep.
And you can see them over and over, and you can tell she's so coached. Yeah. This thing. Yeah, and then she's got to throw her head back. You know, I mean, it's just so fake.
One of my biggest takeaways so far, and I want to get y'all's biggest takeaway as well, has been Trump's command of the moderators.
Yes.
Because every time something is said, if he wants to respond, even if his mic's not on, he'll keep on and tell the moderator, essentially, you're going to let me talk. And the moderator will say, I'm not going to let you talk. I got to go to the next question. We've only got so much time. But eventually they hand it over to Donald Trump. And if Kamala Harris does that, they just railroad her and say, you know,
But the
whatever.
thing is, it's like he's very polite in doing it. He
Right.
doesn't go, he's very polite, very focused when he does it.
Very
I'm telling you,
matter
man,
of fact.
I told you, American people, that Trump was going to be like this. He's focused. He's laser focused. He's not worrying about anybody but the American people.
Tony Gump,
He's
biggest
bringing it.
takeaway so far.
I mean, you can definitely tell ABC's part of the machine, and they're trying to favor Kamala as much as they can. He does seem like he's commanding a lot of the speech. I found it interesting. She brought up the whole Charlottesville thing again, which tells me they're desperate.
Yeah, if you're doing very fine people, like, you're in a bad spot. Like,
Yeah,
'cause
most
that's
everybody
debunked.
knows that didn't happen the way they said it did, and that just shows me that they're desperate. And they didn't let Kamala talk as much as Trump, and that might have to do with they're trying to keep her quiet, possibly.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And somebody in the chat said earlier that ABC did a news thing about cloud seeding back in the 40s, and I believe that is true. I remember seeing something about that.
Ooh.
That's where they can make it rain like 17 inches in one day in Dubai kind of stuff.
Yeah, we need to look that up and see if that's out there.
Not to mention all the fake chemtrails we've been seeing for decades, right? You know?
Well, and you can go back, like, just a couple decades, 2 or 3 decades, and see where mainstream outlets have done articles on global warming and global cooling, and it goes back and forth, and they'll say, well, by the time we get to 1992, the entire country is going to be underwater, and it's
Florida is a lost cause.
What is? I mean, at some point you got to say, all right, I tell you what, I've run out of time. Let me go with a different gimmick because the global warming deal's not working.
Think about the power they have when they can actually make it rain or strengthen hurricanes and things
That's pretty
like that.
scary.
Allegedly,
Yeah,
you know?
that's pretty scary if you think about that, especially if you think about the hurricanes and the tornadoes and everything else. It's wild.
We're back.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again.
The machine.
And Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President
Welcome,
Harris.
Black. Here's the cloud seeders.
So I think you've heard tonight 2 very different visions for our country.
We have.
One that is focused on the future,
Yeah.
and the other that is focused on the past. And an attempt to
Like
take
the person
us
talking
backward.
about Charlottesville on January 6th.
But we're not going back.
Focusing on the present,
And I
dear.
do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us.
No,
and we
don't.
can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that
if she doesn't
includes
unburden
having a
by what has
plan,
been, I'm going to be pissed.
understanding the
Please.
aspirations, the
Or at
dreams,
least some form of
the
it.
hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that
The
is
same
about
small potatoes.
She said protecting seniors. She
hardworking
means
folks a break
protecting
and bringing down the
seniors.
cost of living.
And all the
I
immigrants.
believe in what we can do together.
talked about economy,
that is
hasn't
about
talked about immigration.
sustaining
She's
America's
avoiding it now.
standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I want to be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA.
Yeah, here we
I was
go.
an attorney
I
general.
know.
United
J-
States
J-
Senator,
J-
and now
J-
Vice President. I've
J-
only
J-
had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor,
You locked
I
him up for
never
weed.
asked
Yeah, you
a
locked the
victim
people up.
or a witness,
You locked your
"Are you a
client up for
Republican or a
weed."
Democrat?" The only thing I ever asked them, "Are you okay?" And that's the kind of president we need right now.
Are you okay?
Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Why are we having to build it back
President
up?
Harris, thank
Tell
you.
me.
We're investing in Haitian cats.
So she just started by
Don't
saying
forget the
she's going
ducks.
to do this,
The
she's
ducks
going to
too.
do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it?
Yeah.
She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years
Hell
to
yeah.
fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like We're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughing. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
There you
President
go.
Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News.
Good night, machine.
Good night.
Why are they letting a white man be in this debate?
Good night from the Mockingbird Media. Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
We got our CIA memos in the morning, and now we're doing it.
So there it is, the presidential debate, and I guess the first question is, who won? Or do I have to even ask that?
I personally think Trump won, but I'm biased to a normal, everyday person that just works and goes to bed and wakes up and just turns on the news. Some people might be confused if they buy into all the BS with the mainstream, you know?
It's hard for me to think that the average independent voter who's aggravated with their current way of life and the current state of the economy or whatever it is, to watch that and think that Kamala Harris, what she presented, is going to be better than what's been the past 3.5 years, and says, okay, Trump's a little aggressive. He's reminded me of that in this debate, because he was aggressive. But they've got to be thinking to themselves, man, maybe that aggressiveness is what kept us on track and kept us out of this situation, because no matter what Kamala says, we're involved in wars, we're getting soldiers killed, the deal going on in Gaza, no matter what side you were on, Venezuelans cooking rats in the street in New York, all of these things, like, they're affecting people's lives and
directly.
And so it's like, Kamala Harris is tied to the hip. For the average voter who maybe doesn't even pay that much attention to politics, Kamala Harris is still tied to the hip with Joe Biden, with this administration. And I don't know what they can do that would separate Kamala Harris and Joe Biden for the average person.
Well, the big thing for me, as far as the big takeaway, is, okay, how is the liberal media going to spin it? Where are they going to get their sound bites? Because it was word salad after word salad or attack Trump. The only thing they can pull is her attacking Trump.
Yeah.
That's it, because she didn't say anything about any policy. She really didn't. Trump spoke definitely about the situation and what needed to be done.
Yeah.
Here, I'll say this. Speaking of who won the debate, it depends on who you are as the audience. If you're looking at it as, I want a one world government, one police state, one law across the globe, if you're for that, you would think Kamala won the debate. But if you're for American to being its own country and to fight for itself, to have its own freedoms and to live by our own Constitution, then Trump obviously won the debate for you.
Yeah.
I still think it comes down to the basics: immigration and the economy. I think that's it all. I think for most people, or for a lot of people, it doesn't extend beyond that. Unless you're a millionaire, unless you're very wealthy, and that doesn't affect you. It comes down to two things. I can't afford to live. and they can't afford to live because of the policies of the last 3.5 years and the immigration issue. It's all tied together now.
Yeah.
It's all tied together.
Yeah, but see, there's a lot of brainwashed individuals who think all these people coming in is a good thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not going to change their lost cause.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them out there. There's tens of millions of these people that just watch ABC all the time and don't really pay attention to their own research.
They're a lost cause until those migrants start overtaking their city.
Exactly, until it affects them directly.
Which is what's happened in Chicago, which is what's happened in New York, both prominent Democrat cities. And now not only are they against the Democrats on the national stage, they're against their local Democrats.
Yes, that's where change comes.
Well, and that's a harder battle to fight, is to convince them that Democrats on a local level is a bad thing. And now they're looking at Mayor Johnson in Chicago, and they're looking at Eric Adams in New York, and they're like, you caused this. And it builds on top of the federal elections, and they say to themselves, well, Eric Adams defends Kamala Harris defends him. Like, these guys are birds of a feather, and we got to get rid of them. I think all of that played in to people that watched that debate tonight that had those thoughts running through their head.
I agree.
Good stuff. Yeah. Man, that was expert analysis right there, dude.
Man, I'm telling you.
Come on, cuz. Super pro.
I bow to you, man.
Thanks.
Of course, you know I always have. Okay, let me just let everybody know. I got a secret crush on Andrew. It's a bro Mance kind of thing. Tony, don't worry. I got a secret crush on you too.
Okay, I was worried there for a second.
Yeah, don't worry.
Don't make it weird.
And shout out to everybody in the chat, by the way.
Man, it was
Boomer, Jerry,
awesome.
McHayton, Brian,
So much
Michael. There's so many more I missed.
McHayton?
Yeah, McHayton made some good points. He was the one that mentioned about the 40s and the cloud seeding.
So, by the way, I was just kind of keeping an eye on the numbers across all platforms. We had great numbers tonight. Very happy about that. So, everybody that stuck with us throughout this whole thing,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
We'll go ahead and give some final words, and I'll break tradition. I'll give some final words, believe it or not. And I just want to put it out there that my wife is awesome. She does so much for our family. She is the rock and the glue that holds our family together. And I want her to know how appreciated she is, because it's easy. I mean, in the hustle and bustle of every day, whatever, you may forget to show appreciation to your wife or your husband or whoever. I just want her to know, and I don't even know if she's watching at this point. She's been watching most of the time. But I want her to know how appreciated she is and how vital she is, as my life and our life as a family could not function without her doing what she does. There's my final words.
All right.
How about that?
I'm not doing one. I can't.
No, you have to do
one.
You have to do one.
Oh, man.
Okay, well, let Tony Gup go first, and then you can think about it.
Well, that's kind of hard to follow. So shout out to my wife. She's awesome, and I love her very much, No, but seriously, takeaways from the debate. Either you're for America or you're not. This is no longer Republican versus Democrat anymore. Right. This is nationalist versus globalist. I'm obviously on the nationalist side. I think every country should have its own rules and laws, and you can kind of go to that country if you choose to live there. There shouldn't be one rule, one law overall. So stick to your guns, stay true to yourself, keep the freedom alive, get plenty of water, meat, sunlight, and sleep, stay active, and get close with God.
Oh, God, that's good. Everybody's on fire tonight. Come on, cuz. Come on, cuz. Now, John Bird, I understand you feel like the heat is on, but you never cease to knock it out of the park. So I trust what you're about to do right now with your final words.
People have called me eccentric and unusual. I've always loved action figures. So, I love these guys. But not just, they represent something for me. I love toys, and toys represent youth for me. And, it'd be easy to be sad, and be, angry and frustrated. But I'm glad that I can act like an idiot, and you people appreciate me. That I can be stupid, and unusual. But you people understand that because that's my right. At least it is right now. Is it going to be after November 5th? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. Is it going to be? I want you to call up all your liberal family members, and if you got to threaten them, you threaten them, and you tell them they better vote, or I'm coming to get them. I mean it.
Hey now. That's good. That was really good.
Peacefully, of course.
Peacefully come after him.
And I've ordered a bidet. I'd like to let everybody know.
Really?
Welcome to the club.
Yes.
So I'm very excited. My behind is very excited. I think, you know what? I think with this winter, I'll use it, but I think I may just sit on there with my naked ass butt and just sit on there and be on my phone and turn the heat up.
Yeah.
That'll be very relaxing.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
That's one good thing that France has provided for us.
Forget coffee. You can just sit on that bad boy for 2 hours before work every day, and you'll be in a great mood.
That's true.
Or you could put coffee in it and do like a coffee enema deal.
No, I don't think I'm going to do that.
Okay.
But you know what? I can if I want to until November 5th. So you better vote the way I expect you to vote, which is for what's right. Vote Trump, which is the same as voting for Reagan.
Yeah, same difference.
By the way, I've got a shirt coming next week. It's going to blow your mind. That's all I'm going to say.
I can't wait.
Thank you.
All right.
And Reagan would have voted for Trump, by the way.
Yes,
Reagan,
he would have.
He would have absolutely
He would have
voted
loved.
for
They'd
Trump.
be hanging out and telling jokes. Yeah. Oh man, are you kidding me?
There's no doubt about it. All right. Thank you guys for all you do. Appreciate y'all.
Yes,
appreciate you, the audience, man. Y'all came out big time tonight, and it means a lot. We'll have a brand new podcast for you coming out tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Make sure you subscribe. All the things, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or Twitter or whatever. Until next time, see you, cuz!